beep. Does that mean we're live? I guess we're live.
It does.
Now I've been told that because this isn't a real CRM players episode, we can't open the way we usually do, which is basically by saying our names. So I'll just say hi. I'm Brent.
Hey, I'm Paul. And if you can't figure that, if you didn't hear us, well, actually, if you didn't hear us, you're gonna have trouble with this whole episode. I guarantee that. Uh, but you can see our names in the lower left of this.
Well, anyway, we actually are the CRM players, but this is not the CRM players show. It's is this is like our first spinoff because it really is like a CRM players gear show. So
Well, I mean, I tend to think I mean, in a way, yeah, but it's gonna different. I don't know. I don't have a clue,
all
right?
right,
Let's just do the show and we'll figure out what it is afterwards.
this is what we call a pilot episode because
That's
we
exactly
don't know
right.
what the hell this is going to end up being. But this is something that we've been talking about for a while because we've been buying a lot of stuff and testing a lot of stuff and bringing a lot of stuff with us to events over the last several years. And we get a lot of questions. People are asking us, well, what do you use to do the CRM players? What do you use when you go out on location? And we see you bringing like bags full of stuff. And so we decided, well, why don't we do a show? Why don't we talk about some of the stuff we bought and why we bought it and why we think it's important and why it might suck and why we wish we could get our money back. There's a lot of that, folks. But we're calling it. Well, what are we calling it?
We're calling it Up from the Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, that. But we're still falling. I mean, it's not like we've stopped falling. So, yeah, we're still. I guess we're looking
Well,
up.
actually, the real idea is looking up from the rabbit hole, but I think in reality, this has gone from rabbit hole to sinkhole, right?
That's
given
my wallet.
given
That's
what
what
we
my
have
wallet
here.
votes. My wallet
Yeah.
votes for that name. But anyway, so what we're gonna do with this, we're not gonna be talking about traditional CRM stuff. We're not going to be talking about Chat GPT. We did that yesterday. We've been doing that the last several weeks. We're not going to talk about any of that stuff, but we're going to talk about why we started using these tools as a way to, I don't know, just change the way that we approach thought leadership. You're the one that really focused on that aspect of it, and so we're not going to be getting too deep into the bits and bytes of the tech, but we're going to talk about some of the things, some of the things we think are important, some of the tools and devices we've been trying out to figure out if it'll work for us. And we thought we'd also invite some of our friends who are, experts and guests who are also going through this to do so. But why don't you kind of set the stage for why we're even here doing this and talking about this stuff?
Well, look, I mean, we know one thing, right? We know that if you look at the last few years, the way content gets consumed is actually more like it. The way it gets consumed is less and less, let's call it print, and more video, audio, etc. And the data is there to verify the fact that people retain more due to that and so on and so forth. But if we're looking at it at its simplest level, it's how the generations that are now taking over consume content, right? It's how they do it. They grew up with that. They like it that way, and they're going to continue to do it that way. And they, sadly, they read less, but the reality is it doesn't matter really at this point, whether it's sad or not. That's what they do, right? So effectively, a few years ago, both you and I really began to shift what we did. And we had CRM players for 14 years. I mean, so it's not CRM players per se, but we began shifting to much more video and audio content. And I think what we realized, and this became sort of the basis for this show, is the technology that we use, not the CRM technology, but the gear, actually matters, right? And look, there's two standards we got to look at, and this is really a foundation for the show too, which is the minimum standard. Look, we people work from home; it's hybrid. Okay, we live in a world where, and a lot of executives are and other mid-level management are being accountable to speak to customers, to speak to the public, to give speeches, whatever, in a digital stage. And of course, they communicate daily on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and so on and so forth. So you found out two things in the course of that, and then this is where we'll kind of leave it. Thing one was the audio and the video minimum standard had to be, it's no longer a distraction. Because, you know, how many times has the video froze, the audio broken up, the video been so low quality, you don't even want to look at it really, even though it's there, but that's a distraction. But on the other side of it, and this is actually very important too, and again, throughout the shows, we'll be covering the gamut really, and I'm using gamut in general, not as a color word.
I thought it was Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, the gambit. The gamut will become the gamut. But the other side of this was audio and video, when done right, actually improve the overall experience that the viewers or listeners are having. So we're going to examine it from how do you keep it from being a distraction to how do you make it part of an improvement in the overall experience and everything in between. And we're going to talk literally about the general audio, video, lighting, etc., but also specific reasons why we have certain things and what we have. And there you got it. And we got two really amazing experts to help us with that. And last thing, we're not operating as professionals here. We had to learn as we went here. Okay, we're operating. I'll call us, when we're in a moment of narcissistic ecstasy, we call ourselves prosumers, right? I don't know if we're there either, really, but let's say at least we can talk to it, and that's what we're going to do.
Wow, narcissistic ecstasy.
I'm good. Well, the English and journalism major.
I want to know what that feels like, but sounds like it should be pretty good.
It just means we think more of ourselves than we should.
Oh, okay. Then I've been there, done that.
Yeah, me too.
There. Anyway, right. So the thing that we thought would be, the best way to kind of start this is to focus on one of the more important aspects of video, because let's face it, I think I bought my first camera about really prosumer camera, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe longer than that. I got around here somewhere. A matter of fact, I posted this picture yesterday. And this is just one desk full of stuff. And you can see there's lots of microphones, all sorts of different types of microphones, different types of cameras, some audio interfaces, a recording device. I think there's an iPad in there, lots of stuff. But what we're going to focus on with this is one of the most important parts of video, and I think we're all in agreement. It's audio. It's the quality of what people hear. Matter of fact, I want to play this short clip before we bring on our guests, because I think this kind of sets the stage for our whole conversation. So let's check this out.
Pretty good hunch this video is going to tick off a lot of people, but if you are just getting started, you need to invest in your audio before you invest in cameras, because audio is way more important than video. Now, before you throw anything at me, I want to include some demos and samples to illustrate my point, so I will include two samples, one with good video and bad audio, and the second with bad video and good audio, and you can tell me which one you like and which one you would click off of first. Alright, this is sample 1, and I am recording on the Canon 90D with the stock 18 to 55 millimeter zoom lens, zoomed all the way into 55 millimeters.
I like this guy.
And I am using the internal microphone, and my air conditioner is on. I have a key light off to my left and an open window on my right, and this is how it's sounding. Good video, bad audio. And I hate to say it, but this is something that I've come across quite frequently, where people invest their entire budget on a camera and a lens. They get a fixed 50 millimeter lens with a wide open aperture to get that bokeh, and then they have to set the camera 6 feet away to get good framing. They don't have an external microphone, and they have a bunch of background noise, and that leads to a really bad signal to noise ratio, and they're commonly in an untreated room, leading to a lot of reflection, so a lot of reverberance in their recording, making it terrible to listen to. That's sample 1. And this is sample 2. I am using the Logitech C920 webcam, which goes for about $40 to $60. I do still have a light over to my left side, which I also had for the Canon, but I am not using the camera's inbuilt microphone. I am using an outboard microphone, the Audio Technica AT875R, which is about 10 inches away from my mouth. I am running that into the Focusrite 2i2 3rd Gen, and that is being recorded in my computer, and then I will sync them in post. There you go. Those are the 2 samples for you, one with good video and bad audio, the other with bad video and good audio. Now I'm using the SEV7 running into the same interface and syncing them in post. But let me know in the comments down below, which of these would you watch? Which of them would you click off of? Would you watch the good video with bad audio, or would you watch the bad video with good audio? Let me know in the comments down below.
Oh, yeah, we'll let you know some other time. But there were a lot of comments that were left on this. Over 500 comments. I'm just gonna read. I have a little slide for only the first 5, and just to see.
Okay, that guy, his name is Podcast Stage, is how his name is spelled, and he actually is very good, and he does a lot of really good mic reviews. If you're interested,
yeah, lots of them. All right, so here's just a taste of the comments where people are giving their thoughts on what's better: good video, bad audio, bad video, good audio. Audio is more important than video. I kind of just highlighted a couple of pieces. Good network administrators who deal with live conferences give highest priority to audio. This is because human brain can easily compensate for video imperfections, but compensating for broken audio is much harder. That was the absolute first comment. Second comment. I once did a stream and my camera died, but the audio was still going. I still had 300 viewers, even though it was only a black screen. Afterwards, some people contacted me to say that they could concentrate better because the video was off. All right. So audio 2, video, at the moment. Third comment. I mean, these are literally the first 5 comments. If you keep audio going but lose the picture, people will stay for as long as 30 seconds if they're actively watching and wait for it to come back. You lose audio, they're gone almost right away, et cetera, et cetera. And in this one, this is one of the first things that they taught us in video production class. We're gonna have to ask Monique about that since she's a video production expert. In fact, the camera isn't even the second most important thing. First audio, then lighting, then the camera. And then last but not least, when my clients say a video is so good, I know deep inside that they love the audio because they weren't distracted by it. All right, now, why don't we bring on our guests and see if they're in agreement with all this stuff? You want to do an intro?
No, you should do these intros in this case.
Okay. Well, we're not going to do. Let me apologize to my guests first, because unfortunately, you have me to do the intros, because when the venerable Paul Greenberg does them, people usually end up in tears of joy and blushing. You won't get that from me. You'll get. I know these folks are really good people. All right. First off, I already mentioned Monique, so I'll just bring the whole name: Monique Johnson, who is a video production expert. I've known her for years. She is all over, not only video, but audio, but live streaming, but doing conferences, doing virtual events, doing live events, and integrating video into it in a way that is really impactful. Monique, thank you for
Monique.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Monique.
All right, one more to go. And we've already alluded to the fact that our next guest, he's one of us in terms of he's an industry analyst. This guy is a former Gartner analyst. He's been out on his own for several years. He's an enterprise tech analyst. He knows his stuff inside and out. And if that weren't enough, the dude can rap. I mean, not just like me, doing a mic check. No, this dude does his own records. He does his own production. And Paul mentioned that he was a guest. He was like a double guest.
Yeah.
He was it was almost sort of like Saturday Night Live, where he was not only the guest host, but he was also the guest musical person, entertainer.
Yeah, he was. He was a guest. He was the guest. He was the musical guest and the business guest, both. And we didn't tell anyone. We introduced him as Wiz when he was the musical guest, and his name that you'll probably be calling him by today, Dave Smith, as the business guest. And we made believe we didn't know they were the same person.
Well, I already know he is the same person.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm just going to say Dave Smith, a.k.a. Wiz, is here.
There he is.
Hey, y'all, what's going on?
This is great. Thank you both for joining us. And before we go too far, let me say, because this is the first official comment for Looking Up from the Rabbit Hole. Do you know Gloria Catalano McLean?
No, I don't. Hey, Gloria.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for joining us. And now we got some LinkedIn users coming in.
Well, that's Sarita.
Awesome.
That's Sarita.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. There she is. That's right.
There she is. Sarita.
Hey, Sarita.
All right, guys. So we did all this build up, and we were going to focus the show on the importance of audio to video. First things first, maybe Monique, you could start. Are we right? Are the commenters right? Is audio an extremely important part, if not one of the most important parts to getting video right?
It is the most important. Audio makes or breaks your video. I can't say that enough. Unfortunately, for those who are not familiar with video, they want to immediately get like the latest and greatest camera. And I will say this, one of the comments I do not agree with. It was right. I'm sorry. It was audio. In my opinion, it's audio, lighting, then video. Your camera comes last. And a lot of times people want to focus on that because that's the shininess, the awesomeness, the features and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. But as anyone who's watching us right now, we're all using external microphones right now. And actually, I think this is coincidental almost, but I feel like, Paul and Brent, you can't really see Brent, but a lot of times, Brent, you'll have your microphone in the shot, same as you, Paul. And then for me, I particularly aesthetically, I prefer my mic to be out of the shot. Yeah. And as you can see, Dave, his is out of the shot too. So I think that's kind of cool that the both of us, or the four of us actually, have two methods of incorporating audio into your shot. But yes, I can't say that enough. Audio makes or breaks your video because one main thing, being in someone's ear, like if you're a podcaster, being in someone's ear audibly is very intimate. And even though we're talking about video, you could have the worst or the best, looking video ever. But if that video is doing all kind of something like this, crackling, all that other stuff.
I'm in.
Right?
The package. The camera.
They're going to shut it off instantly. And the same goes the reverse. If you have a crappy looking video, like it doesn't look great, but if your audio is amazing and you're really providing great content, people are going to stick to it, right? They're going to stick and watch. So yes, I definitely agree wholeheartedly. And I'm glad to see that those comments were coming through because a lot of times people will say the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
All right, Wiz.
All right, well, y'all stole my thunder. I mean, but it's important. I agree. No, it is. I still cover video conferencing back in the early days, before 1080p when it was 360p. And even then, people would tolerate bad video before they would tolerate bad audio. And I think that carries over now. But now the expectation for video is even higher, with mobile video and all that stuff now. So I think audio and video, you can't have video without audio, or else you have a silent movie, right? So I think it's just as important, even more so to have the audio right.
Well, actually, to your point, Monique, specifically on this in shot, this is the way I do CRM Players, but I do another show called Engage with Paul and Kenny, and this mic goes here, and I'm going to flip the mic deliberately because right now you can hardly hear me, but I'm going to flip the mic deliberately so that you can hear the difference in the sound, but it's designed to be different, and I have in-ear studio mics for it too. So here, just listen, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so that's here we go.
This is
all right. So this is the mic this is a very different mic, and it's designed more for natural sounding. Well, the Ethos, the one I was using there, is designed to broadcast, so it brings out the lower register, so to speak, a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is designed for this mic. It's a short shotgun, basically. It's not a pencil exactly, but a short shotgun mic. It's sitting in front of me, but the price difference is enormous. Brent has this is from a company called Sheps, right? CMC 646 or something. It's that mic, right?
Okay.
But I don't have a windscreen on it, but it's very focused on it's exactly what I want, and it's always out of camera. I deliberately have in-ear studio monitors that are wrapped underneath here, so it just looks completely natural.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Yes, I love it. Okay.
They're capsules, so mine has a slightly different capsule, but it's the same mic. But that's what I mean. So I'm gonna flip back now.
Yeah, I got the exact one. I have the CMC 6 with the 41 capsule. I'm not using that right now. I'll show you what I'm using. Maybe, and that's what we'll do. I'll show you what I'm using. Then Monique and Dave, why don't you talk about what you do? Sounds like somebody's on. All right. So this is the one.
Speaking of audio, hiccup right there. See, something like that. Sometimes that might throw someone off. So this is perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, sound like a train just went. So currently, what I am using. And there are two mics that podcasters swear by. One is much more used than the other. I think maybe Monique and or Dave are using the Shure SMBM, whatever the number is.
SM7B.
Yeah,
SM7B.
That one is probably the people's choice when it comes to podcast mics. The other one that usually gets compared to it is this one, the EP Electro Voice RE20. I like this one because, quite honestly, I like the way I sound on it. But I started using this mic when I was doing my radio show in Atlanta. This was like 2007, 2008, and a lot of the AM radio stations. I don't know if FM, but for sure AM radio stations.
Yeah.
This was a staple.
That's a classic radio broadcast. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. It's been around since the 70s, literally.
Yeah. So, and I've actually got, so I'm using that one now. I actually have two of them. Don't ask me why. I think I got a deal or something. I don't know. All right. Yeah. Dave, what are you using?
Yes, I'm using the SM7B. So what I like about this one, especially for my room, is not as well treated. So because it's like super dynamic, it sort of picks up my voice directly, and I can go close to get the proximity factor by a white voice. But but so I love that for the way because my room is not treated, so I get like less reflection. It just gets what's in front of it.
Monique?
Oh, yes. So I'm probably using the most simplest mic out of everyone right now. This is the Audio Technica ATR 2100X. Yeah. I love this microphone. It's great for newbies and even advanced users if you know what you're doing with it. In fact, I have the original one here. It used to be, and this just like died on me, but this lasted me for at least 6 to 7 years. They don't make the original one anymore. Now they're using the one that I'm using right now, which is a black one. But the reason why I love this one so much is because I'll show it with this one is the fact that you can connect to analog or you can make it digital, right? So it gives you that choice because a lot of times when we're talking about microphones, including the ones that we've shown on screen, most of them are predominantly analog, meaning you have the XLR connection and being able to have that choice between digital and analog, I think is great for any situation, right? So I've literally carried these microphones when I've done a podcast. So, a lot of times that's a mixer. So I'm doing analog. Even when just hosting something at a in-person event, I've had that opportunity to do that. So that's why I love utilizing this one, only because it gives you the choice and it's very simple and it's very cost effective. Great way to get started. And I've used it not only for just like what we're doing right now, but as like on a boom arm and everything, and just so many different things. So that's what I'm using today is the Audio Technica 2100 ATR-X.
And one of the things that kind of learned over time was that every mic. Look, one thing about mics in general is they all have specific patterns that are involved in them, and all that really means is how and where they pick up sound from. That's all what a pattern is in this case. So like some mics will pick up everything in the room.
Right.
Some mics are hyper directional, so they'll
Right.
they'll only pick up what's in front of you. Some mics will pick up what's in front of you and what's in back of it. So, and if you watch that guy, by the way, Podcastage or Stage, whatever he calls himself, he will rotate the mic so you can hear it from each side, the back and everything. He does a very good job on the demos. He's actually well worth listening to on those. But the thing that's interesting, and it kind of goes to one of the things you said, Dave, is you said that it's an untreated room, right? Or not very much. Like this room is completely treated. What you see behind me, that picture, is sound treatment. Those so-called fake wood walls, sound panels. What you can't see, which are over here and over here, sound panels. Up there, sound panels, right? And it's treated to a specific percentage, and so that my mic options are actually a lot larger because I'm not too worried about all the surrounding sounds that are coming in, because very little are coming in, if any. And when I first started this room, it was just echoey. So, you know, each mic, mic's basically two things. One is it needs to work so that it doesn't have all the distracting noise in it. And two, you need to like what it sounds like. I mean, those are ultimately the two things, right? And the pricing, look, I'll show you something.
Let's go. Let's wait a minute.
I can't show you that. It went off.
Monique, you mentioned your mic. Give us a ballpark of how much that costs.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, $60 or $80.
Okay, so we had a $60 mic or thereabouts. Dave, how much does yours run?
Mine street list $399.
$399, 400.
Short SM7B. Yeah.
Yep. And I know the EVRV RE20s are about that, in that $400 range as well now.
Yeah, and one thing with the Shore too, you also need to get like a cloud lifter. So going in, it needs to get an extra boost to be able to even have line level signal. So exactly. There you go. Yep. So and Paul, add that to the cost, right? Yeah.
So the Ethos is actually $800, but it was on sale to the end of the year for $400. Right. So I got it on sale, basically.
Yeah.
So we're touching on a lot of all these different price ranges. And the Sheps is about a $1,700 mic.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
There you go.
And I also have this is the Sennheiser MKH416. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
This is about $1,000 or thereabouts. And I also have a lot of these mini shotguns. A Rode NTG5.
Yeah, I have a Rode one too somewhere. Here. And how about I have this that I haven't even opened up yet. I've had it for a year. I've had it for a whole year, and I need to open it up. So I said, let me bring this on the show. It'll motivate me to actually find
open it.
Yes.
Ballpark guess at how many mics you each have. Dave, how many do you?
Dude, I have two SM7Bs. I have the granddaddy Neumann U87. This is like a granddaddy.
Oh, that's the big.
That's around 4K. Like that's. I use that more for my music stuff. That one is that's bad boy. And then I have lav mics for when I'm being portable, traveling, stuff like that. Yeah, and also I have a TLM 103 as well too, Paul.
Unfortunately, I just noticed that my remote view of of the overhead just went out, so I'll go fix it in a minute. But in the meantime, I think I have let's see, I have I have the Shure SM7B, the Ethos, the Sheps, I have the Icon 500, I have the Neumann TL 103, I have the Rode Wireless Go 2, I have the DJI version of that, and I have 4 different singular lavalier mics, and I have 2 or 3. I have the 416, the Sennheiser 416 that Brent has. Same. I mean, then I have a bunch of like mics you can plug into devices. You know, like there's a Rode. I have the Rode Video Pro, which sits on top of a camera. I have a couple of iPhone mics, things like that. So I probably have 15 mics all in all, 15, 16.
Wow.
All right. So
Wow. I have 10. I just counted in my head, including the
Yeah.
labs and stuff. So I have a total collectively 10.
all right.
Yeah.
So Monique, why do you have so many? Why you know you buy one that should do the job, right? Why do we all have more than one?
Well, for me, what I will say is this, because of doing video and I do live streaming and I like to teach and things like that and facilitation. When I first started getting into video, what I found by using just only this, I'm you can't move. Like if you're far away from it or kind of move slightly, it picks it up. Or
Yeah.
no, rather not this mic, but when I was using like those snowballs or blue Yetis,
Yeah.
which I hate
Yeah.
those. Sorry
I'm
to
with
Yeti,
you.
but I hate
Horrible.
them.
I'm with
You
Sponsored
couldn't
by
move. Right, right.
Plus one.
Right. So, and then with these get better as you get closer to it. Right. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I got to start doing some lavaliers. Right. And honestly, I went the really cheap route at the time because I really didn't know what I was doing. I was testing things out. So I did like the cheap, like USB type of ones. And then, I noticed that I didn't like the sound. And that's the thing. All of us are
Yeah.
going to have different, um, things that we like how it sounds, and I just didn't like it. So I was like, okay, I got to get better in the quality and things. And quite frankly, I think I really broke the not broke, but really got satisfied with my labs when I got the Rode, the first one.
Yeah.
So the first one, which I loved it, and I was like, I love it. And then this is the Rode Go 2, as Paul was talking about, and I love that it
Yeah.
comes with 2 mics and a transmitter. And honestly, like my next purchase, as you can see, like Brent, you're like, why are you getting more? My next purchase, which to me is even better, is like some sort of Sennheiser or Shure lavalier system to incorporate. And again, the reason, and I would say audio is the most money that I've spent, and I'm all about video. You would think that would be on the camera side, right? But no, audio, because there's always another level to make it even better, depending on the situation that you're in.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like on the lab side, for example, there's this, when I was kind of doing the research on which labs to, because, Brent and I on the road, we typically will take labs, although we were saved in we were trying to do some work with Verint, and none of our sound worked. No matter what we did, none of their sound worked, none of our sound worked.
Yeah.
Right? Well, there was a lot of it was just bandwidth at the hotel was horrible. I was a mess. So we literally took some of our time, went to a Best Buy and got a Wave USB mics, and they worked great.
Yeah.
Wave 3s, right? So I got a couple of those too, right? So, the thing is that one thing I found in the research, like the labs we use, because they're really convenient for us when we're doing the plays on the road, are COS 11D. I have 2. I have 2 or 3, and Brent has a couple. It's not clear, but it's a great mic for indoor. But like if you're outdoor, there's the Countryman, for example, B3 is an amazing mic for outdoor lav, but it sucks indoor. It's horrible, and it's just bizarre. But if you watch all the reviews, you'll see it. But that's what I'm saying. The distinctions are so many, but ultimately you're still getting the mic that sounds best to you, no matter how you cut it. It's going to be the one you like. That's what you're going to end up using.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like I travel out with my Blackmagic 6K Pro, and that has 2 XLR inputs. So I'll bring my 2 short. I'll bring my lav because sometimes the lavs are more nimble, like the wireless. Yeah, exactly, right. But it's 2 mini XLR, so I can plug both Shure SM7Bs in there, and have like my a Joe Rogan style podcast,
right,
set up wherever I go. Yeah.
Hey, Sven.
Hey, Sven.
Good to see you.
He's our guy.
So as we were determining, there's a mic for every person. You just have to find the one that works best for your voice and your ear, I guess, too.
Absolutely.
USB versus XLR. Do you guys have any strong opinions on either?
While you're talking about that, I am literally going to go fix this. It's driving me crazy, and this is a pilot, so I'm walking off. I'll be right back.
I'm old school for like video. Like if I'm doing a regular Zoom and stuff like that, I'll USB. I'm fine with that. But I'm just an old school, you know, I'm an XLR analog guy all the way. So I kind of lean towards that. Yeah. It sounds richer to me a little bit. Yeah.
I actually now I would wholeheartedly agree with Dave. Initially, I would say, and this is just because of lack of knowledge, but as you're going through your journey of video production or audio or whatever it is, it's easier to get started with the USB. Like it's more user friendly. You need less equipment. All you need is your computer, or if you have a digital mixer or something, but that's still going another level.
Yeah.
But all you need is a cord to plug into your computer and boom, you're good. So I used to be really heavy into the USB. However, right, it's just like in the tech world and everything, it's really software versus hardware. If you don't want failure, right, then you're going analog. XLR is actually the most trustworthy connection than using USB, because a lot of times USB, quite frankly, you got to use some sort of software. And as we all know with tech, software is going to break down, something is going to happen. But when you have as much of hardware or sound connection, and there is a reason, you all, why XLR has been around since, I don't know, this is me putting, I was born in the 80s. So like, the 70s or whatnot, and they're still using it today. There's a reason why it still exists today. So gotta use that. So that's why I say in today's Monique, definitely XLR over USB any day.
I gotta tell you, after you said you were born in the 80s, I didn't hear anything else.
I'm an older millennial. I am a millennial, but I'm on the older side of the millennials. So
see, you're the one. You're taking over the world, though.
Yeah.
Like you are. I mean, I'm a boomer, for God's sake. Right? I'm supposed to have left about 10 years ago, but here I am. Right.
From the part of the audience. All right, you have one mic to save your life. Which mic would it be?
To save your life.
Save my life.
Yeah, if you had
that's
one
intense, Brent.
one
no, you know
mic
what it is? It's you know what it is? I know mine would be the Sennheiser 416 because they can swing it like a club. So I assume it's long.
Let me rephrase. So the mic that you have in your current arsenal, that is your go-to mic, the mic that you feel like you can do no wrong. Your voice is like coming down from Mount Sinai. What mic would that be?
The Neumann U87. That's my
Amazing.
desert island mic. But so with that, I'm going through a Neve preamp. I'm doing like a bunch of like crazy stuff to make it like, as Dr. Dre-ish as possible.
Is that a Neve plugin or the actual?
The actual Neve and Rupert, Rupert design. Yeah. So I'm going through Neve and then like a backup Avalon 737 too. So it's going through some analog juice and goo, and it sounds buttery and stuff. And I'm getting excited just talking about it, man.
I never heard the description of buttery, so I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I mean, just like I'm not recording the tape as well too. That's a whole other discussion.
He's doing
so you have
a video on Betamax.
Say again?
You got Neve preamps. Do you use a gate and a limiter, like hardware?
So the Neve preamp, it's right here. I can actually do set my EQ levels how I want to. So sometimes I've put the Shure SM7B through it as well too. It depends on what if I want to dial in something extra for a particular situation. Yeah. So I can EQ on the way in and set it right.
So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to just ask this question real quick, right? So we've talked about EQ, we talked about cloud lifter preamp. For those who do not know what the heck that means, let's describe what that means for people.
Well, why don't we do this? They call it the audio chain, and the mic is one part of the mic is like the first thing. You grab the mic like Dave with a kung fu grip. And you speak but then once you speak into the mic, there are other components between it actually going into the computer where people can hear you and what you say here. So there's a lot of people use something they call an audio interface, and I've got a couple of examples of that. Let me see if I can. So here's a popular one that people are really gravitating
Have a
towards. A lot of the there. Look at that,
Roadcaster
right
Pro. There
on
you
Yeah,
go.
the best.
There
Yeah,
you go.
the Roadcaster Pro, excuse me. It's what, about a $600
$699.
Mm-hmm.
$699 piece of kit, as they like to say, that will allow you to plug your mic into the back of that, and then that via USB gets plugged into your computer, and then your computer can then access all the sound that comes through that. Now, I'm not using that right now, although I have it. What I'm using right now, for mine at least, is this guy, and this is the Universal
the
Audio Apollo
Apollo.
Twin X Duo. And this is, it has pretty professional sound. It's about $1,000, unfortunately. I almost shed a tear every time I say that. But it allows you to do all this digital signal processing on the device, instead of having to try to have your computer do all that, which could, if you don't have the right computer, it could really like max it out and kill it. But you can add these digital plugins. So Dave was saying he actually has the hardware for the gate and the limiter. These are all pieces of hardware that are actually replicated via software plugins on a device. So you can get a pretty good equivalent, but nothing sounds as good as the actual hardware. But that's what I'm using currently. I don't have any effects on it right now. Just using it as plugged into my laptop, and I have my mic plugged in. And the only other thing that's part of my chain right now is I do have an external preamp. Like Dave was saying, the Neve is his preamp, which I know costs a lot more than the one I'm using. I have a little guy. It's a little.
And what's the preamp? Brent, explain to people why you have a preamp.
Okay, so there are two ways of getting sound. It could be like the mic level that you can bring into your computer, and that that's a certain level of strength, the signal strength that can come in via a traditional mic level input into your computer. There's also what they call the line level, which is if you want to plug in a musical instrument, you want to get your guitar in, you get your beatbox or whatever, that could get into your computer, but it uses a line level, and the line level signal is a stronger signal than a mic level. So what this preamp does is allows you to turn your mic level input into a line level input, so it gets you a stronger signal going into your computer. And
all right, Professor, go on now.
I know. Yeah, Brent, keep going. Keep going.
Talk to him, Brent.
YouTube video, so you can actually get some processing before it even hits the computer, and offload some of that processing to your device instead of having it done on the computer. So there's less latency, and there's, like I said, there's more analog, there's more juice that you could hit before it even gets to your computer. So that's
to that point too. The other thing with preamps is you can buy them separately, but they're also built into a lot of devices. So for example, this is I actually can't lift it without ripping cords out, but I have a Zoom F8 field recorder here, F8N field recorder here, and there are preamps built into that. If you remember, we were all kind of talking about, like Dave was talking about, plugging his mics directly into the Blackmagic camera. I have mine plugged into an accessory from a Panasonic camera. They have preamps in them, and ultimately, the idea of the preamp is it improves the sound and cleans the sound also even more. And now the quality varies from end to end. I mean, there's a million levels of quality with preamps. So for the other thing though is, and just because we're kind of skirting this around the USB XLR side, is don't confuse that with audio interfaces. They're not the same thing, right? And because that actually happened with somebody I was talking to. They wanted to buy a preamp, and they bought an audio interface. That is
This
got
audio interface.
yeah, and so here, so what you see that on the lower right, it says audio. It says you'll see the number 14 on the top there. Audio. That's my Rode. When I'm on the road, I bring that audio interface if I'm using a mic that needs it. It's an incredibly good one. But here, even more so. Oops, sorry. Where am I going here?
Wow, no audio,
No,
but
no.
no video.
No,
We stuck with it.
No, yeah, no. I literally, I have to find the. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if you see this, you'll notice two things, right? There's the Neumann mic on the left and the Icon Pro mic on the right. The Neumann's the one I use for my podcast, which is tied to Talking Headless, which is tied to the PPN Players Network that we have, and you can see a lot of the stuff in the back there. That's what we show our shows. On the right, you see that. But what you don't see is that Rodecaster Pro 2 is what both of them are tied to, right? And the Rodecaster Pro 2, what makes it interesting, it goes to Dave's hardware, is the equalizer. There's a lot of other ones, but I'm not going to get into those. But there's a lot of, let's say, the hardware stuff that Dave has is built in his software from a company called Amfex, I think, that's in the Rodecaster Pro. And you plug in all your headsets, you plug in all your mics, you can get that. Remember they were talking about the Cloud Lifter, that's in the Rodecaster Pro, right? So, basically, all of those things are built right into the mixer, but and you can literally run everything from that mixer, right? But you're still going to get the best quality, to Brent's point, when you have the separate hardware. But it's hard, it's also more difficult to learn.
Yeah, and to Monique's point too, like the separate hardware gives you less latency, so less dependence on the computer. Yeah.
Right.
And when people are wondering what latency, meaning, I know some people are probably like, oh, I have this nice microphone, but it's not in sync with my lips, or it's falling out of sync. You're experiencing latency, right? So where just the signal is not keeping up. So, and based on what we just discussed, that helps, especially with hardware versus software, for that to less likely to happen. Now, Brent, in regards to, so that was the first step. And then just real quick, when you're talking about preamp, is this also the equivalent? Because I know it's common out there when people are talking about phantom power or having a phantom power issue or anything like that. Is that the same thing with the preamp?
She's just setting me up. So,
but this is for everyone. So sorry, not even Brent, but just for everyone. I just want to make sure we're educating people at the same time.
Well, some of the mics that we've all talked about, some of them don't need their own power. Like my EV20, I can just stick that in and it'll to my audio interface, and sound will come out. It would be great. Is that, and I think that's the same with the Shure too, right? You don't need phantom power.
Yeah, Shure needs phantom.
Shure needs phantom.
Yeah, it needs phantom.
So mics can work without power. Some mics need power. Some mics come with the power switch on the mic. Some don't. Some need your audio interface to power it. And so there's this thing they call phantom power that allows a mic that needs power but doesn't have it built in to get it from the audio interface. And that's what
it's a booster.
The reason for that.
I mean, actually, does anybody know why they made the decision? Why they make mics that some do and some what design decision even goes into that? I don't even understand why do you do that? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I think it's a radio thing. Brent may have some issue on that. I think it's like the radio broadcast days.
I think it's been pushed down from the broadcasting radio station days. So and I don't know why they decided that then either.
It never made any sense to me at all.
It's like full frame is 35 millimeters, only because that's how cameras originally started.
I know.
That's why.
Right.
Goes back to it was at the very beginning for all this stuff.
The other advantage of all those mixer devices is a lot of the decent ones all have phantom power built in. So you just plug it in and turn it on.
Yep. And then last but not very least was just mention equalizer and what that means.
Wow. So
Dave,
the EQ, yeah. So the
Wiz,
EQ, right. So our
EQ,
voices. So
EQ.
we're operating on hertz, right? The way my voice comes in the air captures it. It operates at different hertz. So the equalizer. So this mic with the Shure SM7B is already sort of has a balanced EQ. It has more bottom end. Brent's RV20. It's a broadcaster's mic, and it has a more of a neutral EQ that sort of cuts through any application you put it in. So it's the EQ is just basically just getting your voice to sound right and balanced. Equals it's basically balancing the hertz from the low end to the mid range to the actual high range of your voice or of any particular sound.
And thank you for describing that, because I found out recently, not too long ago. So as a female, right, it was shared with me with another colleague of mine that if you are able to change the equalizer or change your mic, right, if you're using an analog mic, to have it more deeper sounding, because for some reason psychologically people tend to like that and they will listen to it more, because females, we tend to have a higher octave, generally speaking, right? And I'm a former musician, so we could get into that too.
There
but
you go.
with octaves and stuff, but to make sure that as a female I have my microphone where my voice actually is coming out to be more on the deeper side.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people use the Shure SM7B, which has like I mentioned before, the proximity effect. So the closer I get, the more Barry White, effect. Hello everyone.
Yeah.
So Dave, when you're actually broadcasting, do you do that? Do you
no. So that's why. So that's like how you have your mic. That's why some people have it in their, in their face on their podcast, because it's that proximity effect gives them a deeper voice. Yeah.
All right, we're kind of getting close to the top of the hour. Let me ask both of you and Paul, of course. Well, maybe we'll start with you, Dave, because you beyond being a rapper and a musician, you are an analyst. You live in our world. We see you at these events. You're writing white papers. You're doing thought leadership stuff. But over the last year or so, well, particularly really caught I think both Paul and I's attention.
Yeah.
At these events.
Yeah, sure
where we thought we were doing something. We were coming in with our stuff. We were feeling pretty good about it. And then we run into you, and you break out the Black Magic 6-pocket 6K Pro camera and the lights. You had this big case that you were traveling with, and it wasn't just you, but because there was also several of our other colleagues, who we had never seen before, doing the stuff Paul and I are doing. And it just really dawned on me, oh my God, what we do as analysts and industry watchers, some say the thought leader stuff, it feels like there has definitely been a shift in the way that we try to put our thoughts and our expertise and our analysis out there. And traditionally it was white papers and webinars. Now it is this, either if it's live stream virtually, or if we're at an event, where instead of wanting Wi-Fi and a good desk, we still want that, but we also want good lighting. We want to be able to have a hardwired connection so that we can stream. Talk about why it was important for you to begin this transition when you did.
Yeah, it's funny, so even sort of before the pandemic, I mentioned I used to cover, video conferencing and also, so I've always had interest in multimedia stuff, and also my music background. So, performance from I was a young kid, my dad used to go to these, jazz, gigs, and he used to go to rehearsals. And so I used to help him lug his stuff and his wires. And so I'm used to rolling wires around my hands and all that stuff. But I just have a creative background. And I used to do, even before the pandemic, little sort of quick videos on different tech topics. And then once the pandemic hit, I'm in my first major speaking gig for a major tech company here in the Bay Area. And they shipped me this whole kit. It was like a hard Pelican case. They were like, gentlemen showed up at my door and like, dressed like MI6 agents, and I had to sign off on it. It was kind of daunting, kind of intimidating, right? So I'm like, okay, this is serious. But they sent me a whole kit with like camera and lights. And I remember when they sort of remote controlled my computer via OBS, and they sort of put on this whole event with me and other speakers, like what Monique does, right? And so I'm like, wow, the production value was just insane. And I'm like, okay, I need to up my game. So I took inventory of all the stuff that they sent me. I'm like, I may need to get this stuff. And at the same time, you guys, Brent and Paul, were doing CRM Players, and I would tune it and just started glimpsing at what you guys had. So you guys be talking, I'm listening, but I'm sort of glimpsing at your equipment. Okay, I need to, Brand's that RV20, Paul's using this. So I sort of glimpse at you guys, and then also add that to my inventory of stuff to buy as well too. And then just decided to up my game and just invest in a better camera, the Blackmagic camera, external camera, invest in lights. And then the light thing was crazy because then I had to think about, I'm in front of a window, the time of day is going to shift the light. So I had to block the window, get lights and angle them at 45 degrees. So all this stuff went into like trying to figure out how to actually best do this. But it was fun because being creative, I'm just like, yeah, this is cool. And so it was a great way to get my message out and my content out without, aside from just the writing stuff, it was more creative and kind of, spoke to me.
Monique, you do this, when I met you, that's how I met you, as a video production. And not only were you, an expert and you were teaching other folks, but it was also the enthusiasm and the passion you seem to have for this stuff. It's like, it just comes out. So you, over the last 3 or 4 years, how have you been approaching this with your clients? So what are you trying to get your clients to understand about why they should do this stuff in a certain, why they should not just fall back on what they've always done in terms of, their approach to events or content, to start going forward and using all these things that are now at their disposal that maybe it wasn't really, in their grasp a couple of years ago, but now it's certainly there.
Great question. I'm trying to think like what's the best way to go. So I'm just going to try to jam something in here real quick. So I'm going to go based on like what my dad says to me all the time or out loud. He's like, now is a great time. Now is a great time to be alive, right? Like the fact like in previous years, there's been so many different things we've had to go, to conquer, from disease to all these different things. And quite frankly, we recently went through a pandemic, but that used to be the kind of mindset even before COVID, was that we don't have to deal with that stuff. Like we got that under control, right? And so this is a great time to be alive. But even with video production, it is the cheapest to get stuff done. Like, Paul and Dave and Brent, even you all have been around where a lot of this equipment was not feasible for the average consumer's pocket to reach in and actually validate making this purchase for something that you might not necessarily get an ROI on unless it was your actual career or profession. And so it's the cheapest to get things done. In fact, I'm going to say this, and the pandemic even opened up my eyes, and I'm sure it opened you all's eyes. We're at a time now where the average person or consumer can look better than what is happening on TV. Yeah. What is happening when they're streaming in a Skype person. And I'm like, you all supposed to be professionals. Why is my setup look better than yours? And it's still happening today. So that is the time that we're living in. And so when I'm working with clients, I'm like, you could look better than the NFL commissioner when they did the whole NFL draft virtually, right? Like in his basement. And I said, oh my goodness, are you serious right now? So with my clients, I'm really approaching it from the mindset of, or really just showing them that, hey, you have some sort of expertise. Everyone does. And the thing is, we are no longer limited to having to travel, having to have a large amounts of costs or expenses, having to be in person with things. All can be done at home if you put a dedicated home studio or office area and really provide impact, and most importantly, reach globally. We don't have to get on the plane anymore to do that. And by utilizing video in a strategic manner, you can make that happen, and you can actually get started with it for less than $1,000. I know a lot of the equipment we shared with you all today has been on the upper end, but you don't have to start there. You can start on the other side and work your way up. And that's what I have had to do. And quite frankly, I will say this, even though right now I'm not in the perfect situation, like Dave just said, sitting in front of a window, you see this window, I'm sure you guys have seen me getting lighter and darker. This wasn't necessarily the greatest area, but I will say the pandemic especially has forced me to become a student or be more diligent in lighting, because lighting can transform your video. So when the pandemic first happened, I wasn't using my Sony A66. You know what I was using, all? I was using this old Canon T3i, right? And I was using it as a webcam. People couldn't believe that I was using such an old camera, but I made sure to utilize lighting in a way to make it seem like it was a brand new camera. And that's why I'm just even going on this tangent about be a student of lighting. Audio still is number one. Number two, wholeheartedly, is lighting, because you can make an old camera look so freaking good. And so that's all I have to say.
There you go.
Well, by the way, as a recommendation for people to watch somebody on YouTube for lighting and sound, Curtis Judd. He's revered by those who do lighting and sound, and he's also a very good guy. I like a genuinely nice human being, and his knowledge is beyond anyone else's I've ever seen, and he pretty much has whatever you want to know. And by the way, very responsive if you write him.
Did you hear me say it? And hopefully a future guest.
Oh, he already said he would. He will be a guest. He's already said he would. So
awesome.
There you go.
Awesome.
Hey, real quick, our buddy Anand does have a question. Maybe we can go out on this note. Do you see any good practices for testing different mics for different audiences? That's interesting.
From my music background, I usually would test mics to see which mic is right for a particular voice. So for something like Monique mentioned, for female voices, the Shure F7B is a great match for that. Or mic that has like sort of a better bottom end, that's a great match. Or for someone with a higher pitch voice, the Shure is a good one. The RV20, if you want like a neutral mic, something that's going to cut through. That's great on all voices. That's a great mic. So it's basically just testing the mic for each voice. That's how I would do it. Yeah.
By the way, Anand is known for his voice. He's the golden hog of CRM. So
he's also the voice of PPN. Yeah. He is the voice of PPM. All our voiceovers are from him.
Yeah, and I would even just add there, like, to test even based on the environment you're in, right? So Dave, you talked about how like you're not in a treated room. I'm not in a treated, like I'm in a bedroom area, guest room area that has carpet, so that helps, right? Yeah. But testing mics in different environments is another science and ball game. And even Paul, when you mentioned one of the mics where you're like, it sounds good outside, but not necessarily inside. So those are just some different things. As far as like a specific method, like you kind of have to come up with the workflow or even just a checklist and kind of figure it out. It's a lot of test and trial, you all, and don't allow if something is not sounding or working to stop you. You just got to tweak it, and that's how you learn. So that would be my input on that.
Yeah, and actually, something Paul said too earlier, and it kind of went by, but he mentioned that he has a panel in the back, right? That's right.
Decoration.
Right. So one thing about audio is with the reflections, if you have something in the back of you, it's less reflective to the room. So it helps the mic sound better, because if you have something that's absorbing the sound in the back of you, when you push forward, it's just going to be deadened and get absorbed in the back. So it's great.
And if you're going to kind of go to let's say the audio and video as experience side of it, you'll find that actually soundproofing a room is not that expensive.
Right.
It's not. Yeah. It's not that. Right. I mean, you can be as expensive as you want if you want to get super fancy, but the reality is you could literally hang up sound curtains and be fine, right? So
or moving blankets.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got
So,
two.
that's the thing. And if somebody wants a little, what do they call those things? Those little half. I have
The
one.
gobos,
Oh,
the gobos. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's kind of
I know
no.
what you mean for the
Yeah,
pop
you
for
can.
sound. Yeah.
It's used for a
Mhm.
mic. If somebody wants one, I have
reflection
one. I'll
filter.
send you.
I have one
I
right here.
literally have one. You send me.
I bought a couple.
They work. They all work.
They work, yeah.
I bought some stuff. Maybe some.
I might
last-
take you up on that, Paul.
It's
I
all
don't have
yours.
one of those.
I literally will ship it to you. It's just sitting in a room right now doing nothing.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's really it's good.
Some last maybe words or places to go. I bought some sound panels from Elgato. Elgato is one of those companies that does a lot. They offer mics. They offer things that we didn't even talk about, like mic stands and mic things to help you set your mic up properly. They have their own mics. They have their own audio interfaces. And like I said, the sound panels. I got some of those around, and they're helpful. Any other like little fast piece of advice, Monique, first?
For just what?
Thought, anything you want to before we
Okay, so all I would say is figure out what works for you. I think we can easily just see someone or see a YouTuber or just see whatever and just say, or hear Joe Rogan's like, I want that, right? And a lot of times you'll be surprised. Do you know how many things, and I think Brent kind of alluded this initially at the beginning of the show. Do you know how many things where I would say were wasteful purchases, or just a purchase where I'm like, okay, if that person is using it, I'm using it for me. And I just swore by that person. And a lot of times it might not necessarily work for you, right? And so it's just a matter, again, of having that experimenter hat on and test things out. Test things out how it will work for you. And so I know we've provided a lot of suggestions today, and quite frankly, some or maybe all or maybe just one might work for you, but that's okay. But it's a matter of how can you go about testing it. So my biggest recommendation, one company, they're located here in Atlanta and they have other locations, but they also ship it out. But go and rent stuff first. Test it out. Like initially when people would hire me and I was like broke, y'all, like I rented the equipment. I didn't own it, but I rented it. But it also helped me to figure out what it is would be my next purchase. Like, oh, I really like this, So kind of the same phenomenon when you rent cars, right? Certain cars, you'll be like, oh, I really like this. And before you know it, you're buying one that was just like it. So I would just recommend renting some stuff if you're able to. There's a lot of companies now where if they're not physically located where you are, they will ship it to you.
Yeah, plenty.
Yeah. Absolutely, and reach out to us too. I'm free to to help and talk with anybody. I'm at Dave Mario on Twitter, also on LinkedIn. So that's another good thing as well. So you can reach out to us directly. Because I needed help when I started, and I wish I had this when I was starting out.
The other thing, obviously, from the standpoint of reach out, this is going to be an ongoing show. So if you have questions, get them to us, and they'll get answered. And the other thing I would just suggest is, do a little research, but they don't have to do the research in the sense of read every single thing about the highly technical details of everything, although it does pay to learn the basic terminology, and it really does pay because you'll be able to absorb better. But go to Reddit groups and just read what people are saying. I mean, there's a lot of newbies on Reddit, like a lot, who are trying to figure out stuff. And there's a lot of highly experienced people. And, it goes to Monique's point. It doesn't mean what they're suggesting is going to be right for you, but they give you ideas. And they do give you a lot of ideas, and they explain the ideas. So do your work, and it's kind of fun because, it gets typical Reddit, trash talk starts at some point. But but it is worth it. And watch a lot of YouTube videos because they actually help. And again, we mentioned Curtis Judd. We mentioned this guy. How does he pronounce it? Podcast Stage? The guy who Brent showed in the very beginning with that sort of quirky, snarky kind of thing. He does great mic reviews, and he will review mic against mic against mic against mic against mic, and he'll do all these tests, and they're really helpful. And you'll get a general knowledge, at least, of what quality you're dealing with. And the last thing is, don't think about price per se. Know your budget, work within your budget. Look, I will show you one last thing to close. I don't know if you can see it, but well, I guess you can. Okay, you see that? It's sort of, wait. Anyway, I'm not going to bother for time's sake, but you see the, on the very left, just off screen, there's a little pencil mic that looks about the same as the one that you can see on screen. That little pencil mic, the one you can see on screen is from Audix. It's a really good mic. I use it on the road. The one XLR, the one you can see on the left is a $26 mic. And you know what? It's absolutely passable. It's not like if you want something that's going to not break sound up and not have this is a mic for $26. It's from Australia, gets to you in about 3 days. So don't worry about budget. No, I shouldn't say that. Worry about budget, but don't worry about price, right?
Yeah.
Whatever is going to work is going to work.
Yeah. That's a great way to end. You watch the YouTube video, not just the how-tos. Watch the YouTube videos that you like and see what they're using, because a lot of times you can find out what mics they're using or what cameras I love, and Paul knows, if we always share links based on, do you watch the quality of the sound on this video? We aren't talking about the sound. We're just picking it up by watching it, listen to this, or wow, what lens are they using for that?
Yeah.
A lot of ways you can find that stuff out.
Absolutely.
All
right. Well, thank you to Michelle, Monique, and Dave for joining us. I don't know where Michelle came from. She's gone now. Monique and Dave for joining us.
This was fun. Yeah. I love kind of geeking out on this stuff, which is great.
Well,
please don't hesitate to bring us back. Yeah, please don't hesitate.
Yeah, if you have lenses and lighting next to something.
All right. So, on behalf of Monique Johnson and Dave, wait a minute. I'm going to end like the CRM.
I know. I'll tell you what. We can do the closing the same, but don't put up Minnie's picture. Minnie is only CRM players. Got to be.
Well, I'm Brent Leary,
and I'm Paul Greenberg.
There's no Minnie.
And this is Up from the Rabbit Hole. Got the name of the show in. Next time we even have a potential intro coming for it. Well, you'll see.
Yeah. This is a work in progress.
Yes, it is.
Progress, whatever. We'll see you sometime soon, I hope.
Bye, everyone.